Have you ever started a long-distance relationship with a Filipina and suddenly found yourself wondering, how much am I expected to help financially? Maybe it starts innocently. She tells you about a family problem. Then there's a medical bill, a birthday, school expenses, a phone that needs replacing. Maybe the electricity bill is due. And because you care about her, you want to help. But then you start asking yourself, am I helping because I genuinely want to, or because I feel pressured? Today, we're talking about one of the most sensitive subjects in international relationships, money, and specifically how Western men can navigate financial expectations when dating a Filipina in a long-distance relationship. This isn't about saying Filipinas are financially demanding. They're not all the same. It's about understanding cultural differences, setting healthy boundaries, recognizing genuine needs versus unhealthy dependency, and making sure love doesn't become a financial transaction. The first thing you need to understand is that money can have a different meaning in the Philippines than it does in many Western countries. Family relationships are often extremely important. In many Filipino families, helping parents, siblings, relatives, or children financially can be considered a normal responsibility. So when your Filipina girlfriend tells you that she is helping her mother, supporting a younger sibling, or contributing to household expenses, don't automatically assume something is wrong. She may simply be describing a normal part of her family life. At the same time, you shouldn't assume that because you're the foreigner, you're automatically expected to pay for everything. That's where communication becomes important. You need to understand her situation, but she also needs to understand yours. A healthy relationship involves two people negotiating expectations, not one person constantly providing money. One of the biggest mistakes men can make in a long-distance relationship is believing, if I really love her, I should prove it financially. That's dangerous thinking. Love isn't measured by how much money you send. You can show love through communication, emotional support, visiting each other, planning your future, and being dependable. If every conversation starts becoming about money, that's when you should slow down. For example, if you receive messages like, "Baby, I have a problem," and every problem somehow ends with, "Can you send me money?" You need to ask yourself what's happening. Is this an occasional genuine emergency, or is financial assistance becoming the foundation of the relationship? Those are two very different situations. Here's one of the most important pieces of advice I can give you. Discuss money before money becomes a problem. You don't need to make the conversation uncomfortable. You can simply say, "I care about you, and I want us to build a future together, but I also want us to be honest about money. I have a budget, responsibilities, and limits." That's perfectly reasonable. Decide what you're comfortable with. Maybe you're happy to pay for dinners when you visit. Maybe you're comfortable helping occasionally. Maybe you want to split certain expenses. Or maybe you don't want to provide regular financial support at all. There is no universal rule. The important thing is that your financial boundary should be voluntary, not something created by guilt or pressure. And remember, if you say no to something financially, her reaction tells you a lot. A loving partner might be disappointed, but manipulation, threats, insults, guilt-tripping, or suddenly questioning your love because you won't send money are serious warning signs. There's another important distinction. Helping someone during a genuine emergency is very different from financing their lifestyle indefinitely. Imagine she suddenly has a medical emergency and needs assistance. That's one situation. But imagine you're regularly paying for rent, shopping, phones, family expenses, vacations, loans, and other costs. Now you've potentially created a financial dependency, and that can become difficult for both people. Instead of asking, "How much money can I afford to send?" ask, "What kind of financial arrangement would allow both of us to remain independent?" That's a much healthier question. You don't want your relationship to become boyfriend equals ATM. You want it to become partners equals building a future together. This is another area where Western men can sometimes be surprised. You may fall in love with one person, but discover that she has responsibilities towards several family members, parents, children, siblings, grandparents, relatives. And sometimes those family responsibilities can create financial expectations. This doesn't automatically mean you're being exploited, but it does mean you need to understand what you're getting into. Ask questions. Who does she financially support? How much does she contribute? Is she working? What are her goals? Does she have debts? Does she expect you to support her family after marriage? These aren't romantic questions, but they are important relationship questions. If you are considering marriage, these conversations become even more important. Here's a very simple rule. Never send money that you cannot afford to lose, especially in an online or long-distance relationship. You may believe you know someone very well, but until you've spent significant real-life time together, there are still things you don't know. So be careful with large transfers. Don't borrow money to send money. Don't empty your savings. Don't sell investments, and don't put yourself into debt to demonstrate your love. If you can't afford to help, it's okay to say, "I'm sorry, but I can't financially help with that." A healthy relationship should be able to survive that sentence. Another important principle is to watch what happens when money isn't involved. Does she ask about your day? Does she support your goals? Does she make an effort to communicate? Does she make sacrifices too? Does she have ambitions of her own? Does she want to improve her financial situation? Does she contribute to the relationship in ways that don't involve money? These things matter. And remember, contribution doesn't always mean equal amounts of money. One person might earn more. Another might contribute more time, emotional support, household work, or other responsibilities. The goal isn't necessarily 50-50. The goal is fairness and mutual respect. If your relationship is serious, don't keep talking about money only when there's a problem. Talk about the future. Where will you live? Who will work? What happens if one person loses their job? Will you financially support parents? How will you handle savings? What about children? Will you combine finances after marriage? What debts exist? What are your long-term financial goals? These conversations may not sound romantic, but financial compatibility can be just as important as emotional compatibility. Two people can love each other deeply and still have completely different ideas about money, and those differences can cause major problems later. So here's my golden rule when it comes to financial expectations in a long-distance relationship. Give because you want to give, not because you're afraid of losing the relationship. If you genuinely want to help her, that's your decision. If you want to pay for something when you're together, that's your decision. If you want to support her during a difficult period, that's your decision. But you should never feel that you have to buy someone's affection. Because once money becomes the price of maintaining the relationship, you need to take a step back and evaluate what's really happening. A long-distance relationship between a foreigner and a Filipina can be beautiful and meaningful. But like every relationship, it needs honesty, communication, trust, and boundaries. Don't stereotype her. Don't assume she wants your money. But also, don't ignore financial red flags simply because you're in love. Talk openly. Set boundaries. Understand her family responsibilities. Protect your own financial future. And most importantly, make sure you're building a relationship where love comes first and money comes second. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. How do you think couples should handle money in a long-distance relationship? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.